Okay, there we go. Okay, so for this interview, this is Cynthia Young, and I found my interviewee online through a Facebook group, and she volunteered herself to help me out with this assignment. And Miss Cynthia, is it okay if you could help share your real name with us, please?
My name is Cynthia Young.
Okay, and could you also provide your age?
I am 72 and a half.
Thank you so much. Okay. So in this interview, I'm just gonna ask you a couple of questions. It shouldn't take no longer than like 15 minutes. Is that okay?
Sure, that's
Okay.
fine.
Okay, thank you so much. So, let's see. One of them. So, what were some things that you liked when you were growing up?
I liked how all people got along, all people watched out for each other's children, and you encouraged everybody's family. Nobody isolated by color, by race, by where you lived, what part of town, because everybody was encouraged to show everybody else support, which I don't feel they do that anymore.
I hear you. I feel like nowadays they tend to themselves and it could be discrimination and it could be
I think they're more selfish nowadays than they ever used to be.
oh,
Back then, when I was a child, when you all grew clothing and there was a family less fortunate, they appreciated the fact that you pass things down. Kids nowadays, I'm not wearing that. It's not style. She had it before me. I want brand new. Well,
mhm.
go do some yard work, go do some babysitting. Nothing for us came free. We worked for it.
Yeah, my dad would tell me that a lot too, that nothing's
Yes.
free in this world.
No, we worked hard for it. I mean, I got jobs in high school. I proved to them I could do the job. So, I mean, they would say, "You're too young." I said, "Just give me one day. Just let me try me for one day. And if you don't like it, you don't have to pay me and I'm gone." Okay, so I worked inventory at a Sprouts Ritz store when I was 16. I worked at an A&W the summer before my senior year. And out of high school, I tried going to college, but I found it didn't interest me at all. And back then, the only college we had was DVC, and it was in Pleasant Hill. So you
Hmm.
had to drive over the hill to go to it.
Oh,
I went to work for a major corporation at 19, and I worked my full life for them
oh wow.
until I retired.
Mhm.
36 years.
That's a long time.
And I was proud of working my way through the ranks
Hmm.
and proving myself.
It takes hard work to get to the top, for sure.
Well, I mean, you learned when you started out, nobody explained 401ks. And we had one older lady who sat down with us and said, "What do you mean no one's tell you?" Okay, let me explain it to you. Then, we at that age, having a paycheck and a bank account, that was a big deal.
Hmm.
And then when you got your first car, I mean, it's hysterical. My first paycheck was 112.50. My car payment was 60 and my rent was 80. Come on.
Wow. Yeah, that's nothing like us for these days.
No, not at all.
Oh my goodness.
So we appreciated what we could buy at early and when you try to explain to kids nowadays about cars and gas and saving for the future, we see a lot of people are not doing that and they just want to impress their friends on what they can have. So
Mhm.
that's to me, and they don't want to help out their parents. They just expect to live at their parents' house, and that should be good. You shouldn't. I don't have to help you. Well, you don't have to live here either.
Yeah, I
It's a
think.
generation gap.
Mhm. I think in that situation, it kind of just depends on the situation. I know for me personally, I moved out around like 17. I'm 24, by the way. And so, I was like, I didn't have a really good relationship with my parents. And so for me personally, it was just for my own for my own personal sake. And I tried my best, like growing up, to help give back to my family. Me and my parents, like, we're better now. And
Hmm.
I try to like help them as much as I can. And I try to just make sure that they're okay. But I think, as speaking as like a younger person now and speaking as somebody that grew up in this generation, it can just be hard just trying to grow up. And I feel like if I were to give some advice back to younger me that moved out, it's like, oh, definitely take your time and try not to take things too personally. And that's where it can kind of depend because I feel like I didn't have anyone to sort of help me out or give me advice. And
Right.
I think that's probably one thing that kids these days could just get some help from because they're relying on some people just rely on like social media or like what their friends are doing to figure out what to do next. And so it
Yes, but in that point, I feel if you come from a large family where you have a lot of cousins, and so they're your group to hang with.
mm-hmm,
And we all used to help each other to explain, okay, well, I'm a senior in high school. This is what it's like at this age. Another one could have been a sophomore. We're in junior high. And they're like, don't be in a hurry. Yeah, you may think he's cute, but, and don't take this wrong. You may think he's cute, but just because a guy's cute, but he's an asshole, they're going to grow up to be a cute asshole.
mm-hmm,
We used to tell the girls, hey, okay, he wears glasses, but you have not even gotten to try to know the person.
mm-hmm.
Don't go by their looks. Go get to know the person first.
Yeah,
You
that's
know,
full advice.
just because somebody has some type of a slight handicap doesn't make them a useless person.
Mm-hmm. It's like don't judge them on a simple
Correct.
point.
Yep. I mean, I've given up my seat on BART to a girl who was blind, and then she started talking with me. So, guess what?
Mm-hmm,
I had gotten another seat, but I got back up and stood next to her because she had a big smile from just having an everyday conversation. And I said, "Okay, I'm going to get off now, so you have a good day." But you don't see kids doing this anymore. You don't see kids opening doors. You don't see kids spending time with their grandparents because they don't appreciate the fact those people aren't always going to be here. They just want to know where's the birthday card and how much money did you put in it. And
oh,
back in our day, it was Sunday dinners. I mean, all the families got together. My dad was one of eight. My mother was one of seven. And believe me, Sunday dinners were huge.
oh wow, that sounds very traditional.
Oh, we used to have a great time. And holidays were Christmas trees. And I mean, my grandmother lived to be 96, bless her soul. And when she would sit down to pass out presents to the little children, their questions were like, Grandma, where are you from? And she'd say, well, Wyoming. Grandpa and I lived in Wyoming. So
Mm-hmm.
when you came across on the covered wagon, she started laughing. She goes, we had a car. But to them, if you're a certain age, you cars didn't come in. They didn't understand it. I mean, I don't think the generation spends enough time with senior members to hear the stories. They think everything should be given to them. And that's not so. Well, that's not a new car. I'm not going to drive it. I don't have the latest clothes. I don't have the latest phone.
Mm-hmm.
Honey, go to work for it. The rest of us worked very hard for what we got.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one thing I just see in this generation I don't like.
While we're speaking about this generation, do you have grandchildren by chance?
15 and four are great grandchildren.
Oh, wow. So what advice do you have for them when it comes to marriage?
We only have one that is married.
Oh,
And she dropped out of college. She was going to go to nursing school. She dropped out of college because she got pregnant.
mm-hmm,
And when her mother brought her over to talk to my husband, and she told him that she was pregnant, the only thing he said to her is, are you going to go back to college?
mm-hmm.
And she said, well, sometime. And he goes, don't give up your dreams. Please don't give it. And we're very proud. She now has three children and she works in a NICU.
Oh, wow. Go her.
Yep. We've always encouraged all of our kids to do things, you know, and when we have two other ones and one has a child and she's like, we go, are you going to go back to school? Why don't you try x-ray tech, all this stuff? And she came up with every excuse. I go, we've told you, we'll babysit for you to go to school.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we've told you, call us. We will come over there if she's sick. I mean, don't try to have the excuses with us because, honey, we're going to have an answer for everything. Do you need books? Tell us you need something.
Mm-hmm.
Don't play with the excuses. Education is is fantastic.
It is,
You
yes.
have to take advantage of it. And yeah, they may look at your friends that have gone to college, that have studied. Look where they're at. Just because they moved on, they're not throwing it in your face. They worked hard to get where they're at.
Mm-hmm.
And that could be you with a little effort.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it all take it college is so hard, but it's all worth
It
it.
is. Yes, it is. It's very hard. And it's so different now than it was back in our day.
Mm-hmm.
Because back then, if you even got an AA, that was a big deal. But
Mm-hmm.
now it's a bachelor's is like our AAs.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I mean, but and we're already talking to the ones that are in high school about are you going to go to school? What are
Yeah.
you thinking about? Well, that's good. If you're not sure, go general for the first year, you know. But
Mm-hmm.
if you want a comfortable life, you better think of something that's going to give you give you medical, that's going to give you a 401k.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, well, what's that? So well, then we sit down and explain that to them. And they're like, oh, I said, and I know your mother and father have said this, but you think that's my mom and dad. They don't know nothing. Honey, it's the same advice we gave them.
Mm-hmm. What is the most difficult thing about raising children?
Oh my God. The sacrifices, the sacrifices. I worked straight graveyard from the time my son was in kindergarten to the seventh grade because it paid a differential. And I mean, every time I went through a divorce and he would be with his father, I would pick up other shifts. If somebody, hey, you don't want to work the weekend, you want to give up your holiday, they're like, really? Yeah, I don't have my child this holiday. Sure, why not?
Mm-hmm.
Um, I try to explain my son never wanted, I'm not going to eat peanut butter and jelly in the third grade. And I tell him, do you know how many bologna sandwiches I ate for you to have that Lunchable and your sandwich back?
Mm-hmm.
And now he has a child. He goes, I kind of see what you're talking about, Mom. I said, yeah. I said, I didn't have a lot of things so that you could. And my immediate between my sibling and my parents, I was the first one to have a computer in my home.
Oh wow.
So my nephew would love to babysit at my house
Mm.
because once my son went to bed, he could be on a computer. And honey, this is a dial-up mode. So, waiting for it to come, waiting for it to come.
Mm-hmm. You're just waiting for it to start on.
Oh yeah, I mean, kids talk about computers and iPhones and all this, and we look at them. I said, "Do you know what our computer was? See that dictionary and those encyclopedias that you think are that was our computers.
Oh,
It
you
was called a
yeah.
library, you know."
Oh yeah.
And I said, "You guys, you're not sacrificing. You have no idea what it's like to go without."
Mm-hmm. Yeah, our generation, especially as we're talking about like younger children, I don't know how they would survive just based off of like a dictionary or see, I wanted to say Google because that's like the go-to for people these days.
Right. I have shown some of my grandchildren a dictionary I have that's probably 10 inches thick. And they're like, what is that? I said, it's your version of Google. You look it up.
Mm-hmm.
What? And so we open it. And they're like, so you just spell it out? Yeah. Wow. Okay. I said, now we're going to show you an old fashioned encyclopedia. And they just, oh. Well, how do you do book reports? You went to the library and got books, honey.
Mm,
Oh, you don't look on the computer.
yeah.
And my husband and I were going through and we found our old flip phones and my mother's old pager, and I put them in the toy box. And one Christmas they're over here and they're going, "What's this?" And I said, "A flip phone." "What's that?" And we're explaining how you open the phone. I said, "Hey, when phones first came out, if you had a phone, you had money because the phone calls were $1 a minute."
Oh,
And
wow.
they're like, "Seriously?" And I have one of the old bigger phones. I'm talking 8 inches big. They were like, "What's this?" I said, "That's a cell phone." And they just couldn't get over how you have to hold this thing to your ear and
That's
there's no speaker on it.
oh my goodness.
Yeah, it's hilarious sometimes explaining stuff to them.
They were like, whoa, it's like such a big difference. Our world
You're
is just
antique.
so
You're
integrated.
antique. You know?
Yeah. So
But
what
yeah,
was the like the most interesting or what invention had the greatest impact throughout your lifetime for you?
computer.
Oh, okay.
Computer. Watching them roll out the big computers. I worked for the phone company
Hmm.
when they first put them out on the floors. So, like, everybody takes things for granted. Um, I don't know if you know what a landline is. Do you know what a landline is at your house?
It was like it's like a home phone. That's what we would call
Correct.
it.
Correct. I worked in the division that created the phone bills. I've worked in the division that updated the databases from Oregon to Bakersfield and had Nevada. So
Hmm.
I mean, they used to print out forms. We had certain forms for certain NPA was an area code. Just watching it grow and change. That was the biggest thing for me.
Hmm.
You know, yeah, it amazes me. Well, have you ever watched the movie? It's called, wait a minute, it's right here, Hidden Figures.
No, I've never heard of that movie.
Okay, you need to watch it.
Oh.
It's about NASA and how these are three black women who worked in on NASA and how they had to work their way through the ranks. And
Mhm.
there's a scene where they bring in this big computer, and I'm serious, that's exactly what they used to look like. They took up rooms. They didn't make doors big enough to get them through.
Oh,
Watch the movie
they're
and
like
see
ones with the really big, chunky monitors, right?
that's exactly what we had. Yes. That's what we had. I watched the phone company progress from big ones and
Mhm.
come down and come down and come down. Yes.
So what would you say is the most innovative to you?
The most innovative. On computers or in life itself?
The computers, like, would you prefer to have like it in the middle? Do you like them nowadays, or did you prefer what you grew up with?
Well, when we grew up, it was a dial-up modem. Oh God, you want to talk about slow? Kids nowadays would have never been able to handle that. If you have to hear a dial-up modem, they're hilarious. And there
Mhm.
wasn't much gigabyte on it. There wasn't, in fact, I don't even think there was a gigabyte. That was huge back then.
Mhm.
Um, it's computers, yeah. Watching computers grow, get smaller and smaller, faster and faster, and how the people who went into computers back then, the
Mhm.
knowledge that they have now is nothing compared to what we're teaching kids in coding and just that just the difference of if you did a book on computers, the
Mhm.
growth to where we are, the speed, the knowledge it has, the availability. It, back then, it was not everybody had one. You had to have money to have one. You had to. It. I had saved a long time before I could afford it
Mhm. Yeah.
because you have two lines coming into your house. You know,
Mhm.
um, It was just so different. So different.
Hmm. The way that I'm picturing it like how people have Teslas and they kind of like charge it from outside. Was it sort of like that when you were talking about the line hookup?
No, they had a modem, and when you started it up, it was it made a sound till it did a connection, like a beep 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 beep, and it was dialing to get connected to the system.
Mhm.
Yeah, so computers, I would say computers.
Okay. Um, so I have one last question. What
Sure.
does what does it mean to age successfully or gracefully?
To age successfully means you've become management in a corporation.
Hmm.
To the other, to age is happiness and joy.
So successfully and gracefully, those were two different
Oh
um
yeah. Back well in my generation, women had just started going to work. I mean, I remember my mother had a job, but it was an important job. It was at a cannery, and then she went through a divorce and she put herself in beauty school at 45.
hmm
And then she did that for like 8 or 10 years, and then she started her own cleaning business. So without, they used to say, well, you don't have a college education. That's how they threw it back at you. Without a college education, you cannot be successful.
hmm
Well, honey, somebody cleaned your house and ironed your clothes to make you look good. You didn't do it. So the we used to comments were we used to always say behind every successful man, there's a woman pushing him to get to where he's at.
That's true to this day. I believe in that.
Oh yeah, yeah. You know, because he's not going to have time. I don't have time to drop it off at the cleaners. I don't have time to go pick it up at the cleaners. I need this shirt by clean and ironed by tomorrow. I told him, I remember when telling my son, it's time you learn how to iron t-shirts. We're going to start on pillowcases because that's what I learned on.
Hmm.
When I started ironing, my father's handkerchiefs, pillowcases, and then his white t-shirts.
Hmm.
My son thought I was crazy. And then he'd say, oh, Mom, I need this iron. Ah, so see, now you need to learn how to do something,
Hmm. So what
you
about
know?
women that like if they don't want to move up within a company, what about women that are able to like create their own small businesses, for example? Would you still consider them like successful on their end, or is that completely different for
Yeah.
you?
I that's successful on their end because I know how much work it takes to
Hmm.
run a small company, a small boutique.
Hmm.
I know I have friends that have done it. It's not easy.
Hmm.
I give them I give them everything that is to have a dream, follow through and make it happen.
Hmm.
That's the same thing to me as going as you just earned a CEO. You're the CEO of your company, of
Yeah.
your little store.
Okay. Yeah, I definitely agree. Yeah, it's not easy.
Mm-mm. You know, because there's too many businesses. People think I have a friend.
Hmm.
I will not say he's the most intelligent gentleman. And he was telling me one day, did I know how to get a grant? I said, well, grant for what? Well, I want to start a gardening business. I said, okay, first of all, let's back up and let's talk about this. Well, we have numerous times. You
Hmm.
don't have a current driver's license. You had a vehicle, it broke down, it got impounded because you didn't have the money to fix it.
Hmm.
Now, how are you going to have a gardening business if you can't keep a vehicle running to put all the tools in to get to? When you're supposed to be at my house some days at 10,
Hmm.
I might see you at 1. I said, honey, you're not going to get gardening jobs that way. And
Yeah.
I got him a job with the neighbor trimming a bush, a big tree, and he was supposed to have been at my house at 10. He showed up at 12:30. I said, she already called me and said she doesn't want you. Oh, I had a leg cramp. I don't know where my phone is. I looked at him. I go, I don't want to hear it.
Mhm.
If you don't apply yourself, you are never going to get anywhere. And I've told you this over and over again. I've helped you with clothing, I've helped you with shoes. You have every excuse in the book. And we both know you're using drugs. But I told him, you keep smoking that shit and see where your brain's going to end you at. You're going to be in a diaper on the street and no one's going to take care of you. And that, I don't pity you. You know the truth, but you're not applying yourself to get better. So
Mhm.
I don't, I can't help you. I've tried, but I'm tired of your excuses,
Yeah.
especially when it comes to drugs. I don't cut it.
Yeah, at some point you can only help so much, and eventually that person just has to learn on their own.
And I know this from experience because of my brother. My
Oh,
brother went down that road and never came back.
I'm so sorry.
I mean, he's alive, but he's full dementia with a stroke. He doesn't know, he knows his name. He doesn't know his birthday. He doesn't know anything else. He can't answer the year, who's the president. He no longer can speak full sentences.
Mhm.
So I don't, when people tell me that, I don't want anything to do with them.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like it'll affect you so differently when you figure out that somebody close to you goes down these certain routes. And so,
It's
when,
not just you, it's your whole family.
yeah,
They take you down with them,
I hear ya.
and you could only do so much. So instead of, I had to let go of him, but
Hmm.
I stayed by his children's side.
That's
And they know they can call me day or night.
mhm. That's very nice of you. I really like that about you.
Well, they didn't ask for this.
Mm,
They didn't ask for it. They were little when this started happening. Now, if I had seen that they were going to follow the pathway, I probably would have not stepped in and helped. But this turned them against every type of ever using a drug. They just, they love their father, but he put them through hell. He really did. So I've seen the best come out, and this is a very intelligent man.
mm,
But some people can't get let go of the taste. They just can't fight it. And he couldn't.
mm. This is a good story for classmates to hear because good to know, good to hear the actual stories that goes on behind.
Oh, it means it happens to the best of families, honey.
Yeah.
And don't make the whole family suffer for one parent, one adult.
Hmm.
If the children are willing to thrive, you can't turn your back on them. They didn't ask for this. They didn't need to witness or see this. And they saw stuff they should have never seen.
Oh.
And for that, I am pissed at my brother. But Chuck, even when I talk to him, he has no idea what we're talking about. You know, we
Mm,
can't even have a conversation anymore. I'm lucky if I can get him to acknowledge the tree or the sky. It's that far gone.
oh.
And this is somebody who played sports,
Mm,
who had a good paying job. But you can't when you fight to try to save them, and they promise you that's the end. They're never going to do it again. But you see them still not being able to. We tried interventions. We
mm,
tried everything. And finally we just had to let him go. So I would always say, but you're supposed to be on cholesterol medication. You're supposed to be on this. So I would carry it with me. And every time I saw him, here, take this pill. At least let me give you someone occasionally. I'd
mm,
do his laundry. I'd give him a good meal. But money? No, I wouldn't give him money. No. I'll give you a ride to where you want to go, but I'm not going to give you money because I know it's not going to be used in the proper way.
mm. Thank you for
Yeah,
sharing that story. I know that was very, very personal.
yeah, that's okay. But people need to understand because life is changing
Hmm.
and generations are changing. If you don't keep values, one of the top things in your life,
Hmm.
you're going to go the wrong way.
Hmm.
Try to remember. You may think, oh, I don't want to go see that grandmother or that aunt. They're so old. There's nothing we can talk about. Ask them about the stories of their life
Hmm.
because you're going to wish you'd have turned on a tape recorder. My dad was a World War II veteran. At
Oh,
the end
wow.
of his life, he may not have remembered all the details, but boy, he could tell you a war story like he had just done it yesterday.
Oh man. I bet he had a
Yeah.
lot of stories.
Oh, he had a ton of stories. He had a ton of stories. I took him on a cruise one year
Hmm.
to Alaska, and he had been walking around, and somewhere on the ship they were acknowledging veterans for some reason,
Hmm.
and he raised his arm, and those two young ladies from the Midwest were like, "Oh, what branch were you in?" And he said, "Army. I was in World War II." And so they asked me, "Can we borrow him for a couple of hours? We'd love to hear some stories." I said, "Girl, before you take him. Go to the bathroom and get your drink because he's going to talk your ear off." And when I came back, "You okay?" We're good. We're good. And you know what? They said thank you because we thoroughly enjoyed hearing the stories.
Aw.
And kids nowadays, they don't want to hear about history, but
Hmm.
it's important because this is why we're progressing. We don't want to make the same mistakes,
Hmm.
and you've got to think about it. If you have $5, okay, what can I do with this $5? I can buy a lottery ticket. I can buy a homeless a meal.
Hmm.
Now, when they ask for change, and I just witnessed this the other day, this guy's outside a Safeway and he's asking for spare change. And this man went up to me, said, "Would you like a sandwich?" He goes, "No, I want a Starbucks." Whoa, you went from asking from this to a whole lot of, yeah, I want a Starbucks too, buddy.
Yeah.
Give me a break. What happened to appreciating a sandwich and a drink? Now
No.
you're going to tell me what you want?
Right.
No, no, I don't do it. Yeah.
Yeah, you
You,
have to be kind of like, what's the word? You have to be kind of careful with who you decide to help out with when it comes to homeless people. It's sad, but
yeah, yeah, because they want the world for nothing. Well, I would like the world too, but I worked for what I have, and I'm proud of what I have because my grandkids go, I tell them, they go, "Oh, this is you own this house, Grandma?" And I said, "This is Grandma's fifth house that I purchased."
oh wow, that's a big accomplishment.
It is a very big. Yes, I had one before I got married. I had one with my first husband. I had I had two after my divorce, and then I bought this one. I
Oh,
said, I don't know too many women that have bought five houses.
yeah.
So, yes, work pays off.
Hmm.
Savings pays off. But at the same time, make memories with your family because they're not going to be here forever.
Hmm.
I've lost both my parents, and I was more close to my mother. And
Hmm.
I'll tell you, she's been gone since 2004, and I hate Mother's Day. I
Hmm.
don't enjoy it one bit. So enjoy what you have because it's not here forever.
Hmm. I hear you. I'm gonna go ahead and stop the recording because
Okay.
I'm running out of time.